doesn't work out that way, when you actually have to expend some effort.
That's right, and I'm justified in it.
Right.
I should be
So
PO'd.
the thing that came up for me when I was, conceiving of asking that question, let's give a personal example of mind-generated reality not matching actual reality in a recent, something in recent. And what came up for me was I like to weave. That's a favorite pastime of mine. And I think I'm good at it. And I really like coming up with complicated patterns that are built out of the possibilities of the kind of the mathematical structure of weaving, and combining Keller with these mathematical structures. And I think I do something really unusual and more interesting than almost anybody else I see out there in the world. So, you can hear like how I have this opinion, a very high opinion of myself. That's right. And
I can relate to that.
I learned to weave a long time ago when I was in college, and had a few years of weaving, and then I didn't do any weaving for years. For part of the reason is the loom is not something is very portable. So in our more gypsy-like days, and it can be an expensive habit. So, but anyway, a few years ago, I bought a small loom, and have really spent a lot of time weaving in the last 5 years or so. Had a lot of fun with it. So when we moved to Asheville, I was all excited, like, wow, they'll have a Weavers Guild here. I can link up with people and they'll recognize my brilliance. So I went to, they have the local Weavers Guild has I think it's an every other year show. And so I was all pumped up about that. I had something that I was almost made when I found out about the show, and I just thought, well, you could enter 2 things in for the price of one. So I was like, all right, man, I'm just going to work really hard and do 2 things. I'm just going to make a splash, in Asheville weaving circles. So I did. I put a lot of energy into getting the second piece done in the deadline, and so I'm like. Then the day of the opening, I'm all excited. Here's my piece is going to be right there, in the forefront because I'll be recognized. And it was like, obviously, they didn't think much of what I had woven at all by the placement in the show. And I can feel it as I'm talking about it, like the crushing feeling of that, like, wow. Rejection. I thought I had a lot of talent, and I thought I was innovative, and I thought they would recognize me for that. And instead, I feel like I've been kind of slapped in the face, like, you're an amateur. I mean, I was in the amateur category, of course, but you're really an amateur. So all these bubbles about my impression of myself were completely blown. And I just walked around. I'm sure if you'd seen me at that event, I'm sure I did not look like I'm looking right now. Even, or was not accepting. I was not at peace. I was not happy. I was like, looking critically at the winners, and the pieces that were attractively displayed, thinking, look how it's just plain weave. There's nothing interesting here. This is just, I can't believe they picked these over me. And, and my stomach was, and it was like I felt just horrible. And I haven't wanted to go back to the exhibit. I haven't, because it's like, I don't want to go relive that feeling of rejection again. And so that for me, there was my mind-generated reality coming up against actual reality, or objective reality anyway, which is my mind, what was in my mind about my weaving talents and my sense of design. The objective world of Asheville weaving did not agree with me at all.
Well, I take a little issue with that. I don't think you really can conflate the experience you're describing and what I'm describing. I'm talking
my mind-generated reality not matching objective reality.
Well, I think we should look at the injection of a little objective fact or objective mind data into this. Mm-hmm. I know you were incapable of being objective in the upset, the state you were in. And when you were walking around looking at other work, even considering the mood, take critical, take points off for being in a foul temper, because that always affects what we're looking at.
Sure.
But do you think your work was more complex? Objectively, as objective as than what you were saying.
Yes.
Yes.
maybe I
can
didn't have
relate.
some of the sense of design that's really, more. There was some design sense maybe that I'm lacking, but in terms of the actual weaving structures, yeah, I think almost nobody had anything that matched mine. I still think that. That
So
just
the point
other people
is that
don't
if you,
value it.
and if you factor that in,
Yeah,
going nuts about it is still crazy.
right.
Going, because
Right.
that's the objective reality. Well, there was a great quote of the day recently. It was something like, "To be great means to be misunderstood. If you're ahead of the herd, if you're out there, if you just see things before other people see it, they call you great, but at first they're going to misunderstand you and burn you at the stake, possibly."
But see, there's one of the most basic flaws in logic is if A, B, then B, A, wrong. If you're great, you're often misunderstood. But if you're misunderstood, it does not mean you're necessarily great.
Oh, I agree. I agree. However,
So,
I
I'm
mean, it's
just
like
saying-
I feel that way in Asheville about my songs. I'm a
Right.
songwriter, and I think my songs. I mean, I'm a screw up, but let's just like the work that we're doing is for as incapable as I am of being objective. It's great. It's powerful. I think we have a handle on what's wrong with the human race. As messianic as that sounds. The reason the world looks crazy is because the human race is crazy, operationally crazy. We're in a state of perpetual confusion. Enlightenment is the antidote to it, and the humility that's the only thing we think that's going to save us from this headlong, lemming-like stampede to the cliff. Humility. The best dose of humility we think we could get is a self-diagnosis of operationally insane. And we can talk a lot about that. Just because you're not bouncing off the walls in an insane asylum doesn't mean you're sane. We like to point at those people who can't conform and play the game. They're the nuts, not us. We'll have a lot more to say about that. But what I'm saying is that the self-diagnosis of humility is the biggest shortcut we know. The self-diagnosis of insanity is the shortest route to true humility. In our book, we say you can't be any humbler than nuts when you realize you're really not in control of your life like you'd like to think you are. So,
okay,
go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say that, so where I was really coming from about that was that the place that was okay for me to be was number one. I expected to be recognized. And so it was my lack of recognition, that I felt like objective reality wasn't matching my internal subjective point of view of where I should be. I should never be, I've talked about being competitive. I should never be below the top ranks. And so that was what was most depressing was that I wasn't being recognized. I wasn't being held up.
Maybe what's really frightful is that we're all insecure because none of us know who the hell we are.
Yeah.
So what it really is you're afraid that you've always just been faking it. And
Right.
when you meet with any rejection, you take that as, oh my God, I am a zero. Just kidding myself that I'm any good. I feel the same way about my songs.
Right, that's what I think.
I'm totally insecure. I've gone out to some open mic nights here, and I might as well be singing, I love you, baby, but you don't dress cool, instead of songs like Once You Were a Stranger, Safely Out of Danger, Till That Old Arranger Love, It Came and Took You In, and we begin. You were not protecting, you were not expecting love to be selecting you and finding your heart's key, and much less me. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to fake it. Love is all I'm living for. Blue sky started graying. Games that we were playing filtered out the raying light that was so very new for me and you. Weeds had been a-growing. Lies had been a-growing. Neither of us knowing why that we were holding back. It looked so black. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to fake it. Love is all I'm living for. Then we started seeing that which we were fleeing, haunted us by being true until we faced it down and all around. What's the lyric?
So we
started cleaning, straightened what was leaning, and we found the meaning why the bird of love can't fly. Always a lie. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to fake it. Love is all I'm living for. I love you, baby, but you don't dress cool.
Well, okay.
Generation X.
All right. So now I'm going to take some responsibility here. You know,
how about the delivery?
Well, and what kind of open mics?
Mic nights, amateur hour.
Yeah, where the only people present were other songwriters. You know, all they were focused on was their chance on the.
Same
right,
thing,
and actually,
same
so
feeling
when
of
I
rejection,
and it's interesting.
They don't get it. We moved to Asheville for this.
Anyway, I'm glad you brought this up because, to be honest, not that I was thinking of that question in a manipulative sense, but when it occurred to me listening to you talk about kind of the abstractions of how insanity works, the confusion of mind-generated reality with actual reality, and it occurred to me to bring it down to earth with personal examples. Your songs, your music was what came up for me for you. Because this is something, I've known Arthur for 30 years. He had a lot of songs written when I met him. It was one of the reasons I fell in love with him was, I was just awed.
John Denver recorded one of my songs, relatively speaking,
right after we met.
On Seasons of the Heart album. Bernie Ledden of the Eagles recorded 2 of my songs, and then they didn't release his album. So, one was supposed to be the single.
I mean, so I'll be honest. Part of me was like, oh, wow, he's just about to break through to the big time. If I, hook on to him, then,
I've always dreamed.
In life, I'll be on easy street,
Number one,
like live the hippie
one.
life, the cool. Anyway, so I mean, I'll cop to that. That's under there. But more importantly,
Gold digger, eh?
the message of his songs and the beauty of his songs were so phenomenal. I had to love somebody that could write that kind of song, and it's been an immense frustration for me that 30 years have gone by and nothing's happened with them. And there's all sorts of
my personal motto. This is from me is. Artists are usually discovered after they're dead because they're no longer around to sabotage their own careers.
So, yeah, that's a real nice saying. Anyway, it's like Arthur's mind-generated reality.
One day I'll make it.
That your mind-generated reality about yourself
about myself, right?
Is blocking your ability to put these songs out in the world.
Not allowed to win.
Right.
No way, Jose.
Right.
No way am I going to win.
We both have a self-image of ourselves as losers. It's majorly affected our lives, and blocked our ability to express ourselves. And I've talked about this some. I have pushed through that a lot in my life in the last 10 years. And it's like,
someone calling? Is that Jesus?
I'd like to slap Arthur awake before it's too late. And
slap me.
I might just have to. And actually, what is it? Not that I'm actually starting to look at how to go about dealing with his songs myself. We've actually been discussing it.
The gates will swing wide. Let's get a band together and get some decent demo tapes, and they'll be snapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was rolling down the highway, listening to my radio. The news was crying bad to worse, the world so full of woe.
Yeah.
When I spied a bumper sticker that said it oh so good. It said, honk if you love Judas, and in parentheses, Jesus would. Honk if you love Judas. Don't you know that Jesus would? He preached compassion, peace, and brotherhood, sisterhood, humanhood, the 3 choruses. So turn the other cheek in the love for which he stood. And honk if you love Judas, because you know that Jesus would.
See, you know what I think you need?
You can even have the bumper sticker to market the single with.
Call
Arthur, 808-8014 if you're interested.
If you're a marketer.
If you're a marketer or a A&R person,
Well,
holed up in a motel in
see,
Asheville.
but that's Arthur's. He talked about his mind-generated reality of being the sloth. What I've